I'm dancing on my own today. I'm on my own, so I didn't go in the studio. I didn't bother with the green screen because it's a lot easier without, right? So, yes, so James is traveling back from Dubai and we're hoping to have him come in and join us. But meanwhile, I'm very excited to have a special guest today. We're talking about financial wellness for speakers, financial wellness for anybody, right? Really. Um, as speakers, there is a huge potential to make a lot of money. However, it's a bit of a risky business sometimes, right? And I don't know about you, but I tend to spend anything I have. In fact, I usually spend it before I earn it, which is not how to do things, really. That's my experience. But we should all be thinking about the future. We should all be thinking about how to use our money wisely and how to do our best with it. And with that in mind, we thought we would invite a financial wellness expert to the show to help us get more from our hard earned cash. Caitriona Ellis is a fully qualified financial advisor with an honours commerce degree. She empowers people to master their money affairs for peace of mind now and in the future. And she's going to share some financial wellness that is crucial for speakers, along with some tips and tools to increase our financial wellness. So welcome, 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 welcome. Caitriona, how are you?
Great, thank you, Maria. Thanks very much for having me.
You're lit like an angel that is going to bring us lots of help. So first of all, I think you need to make a statement with regards to what we're going to be talking about today, just so that we are all legal and above board.
Yeah,
Could you do that for me, please?
sounds good. I can. So just so you're aware, any of the information that we share in the spot today isn't intended as financial, tax, or legal advice, and you should always carry out your own due diligence and take independent specialist advice before making any decision to invest. And that's
Okay,
the
that was our
compliance
legal.
stuff done.
That was the legal disclaimer. That was our compliance stuff. Super. And so, Caitriona, tell me, you're calling in from the Isle of Man today. How did you end up with the Isle of Man? Because obviously that accent is Irish, right?
It is. It is. It is. How did I end up here? It was 2015 when this journey really began for me in earnest. I have come from a corporate banking background, so I've been in numbers and the world of business for a long time. But when I became a parent in 2008 for the first time, my world considerably changed, as it does for many people. And I retired from the corporate world to be full-time home. And as I was in that space, we lost, our income. I had a really good, jammy salary with lots of benefits, working with one of the biggest banks in Ireland, and life became very different financially and otherwise. But it wasn't until 2015 that really we had things were starting to get particularly sticky financially. We had two 100% mortgages. We had bought our second house just as the market crashed. And so we were in a pretty challenging position financially, and we had one income. I didn't have the wherewithal to return to work at that time because the kids, we'd made the decision we wanted to be there home full time, and we thought, okay, well, how can we get around this? We don't want our quality of life to remain as it is. There must be another way of doing this. However, I didn't come from a background where with a silver spoon or with a good financial wellness model, so I had to start from scratch. I found an amazing mentor who I've worked with since, and when I started working with her in 2015, my eyes opened to a whole new way of doing this. And one conversation with her in particular, she said to me, well, look, there you can influence your three things: your income, your expenses, and your tax. And I was like, well, I can't do anything about my tax. I don't set the rules. She said, but of course you decide where you live. And I thought, but, and there was all these buts as to why I couldn't do, different things. And we looked at Dubai, and we looked at the Isle of Man, and we looked at lots of places. And then miraculously, as these things come to pass sometimes, my husband was offered a job in the Isle of Man. And we said yes without even thinking. We packed everything up and we were out of there. And with that transition, without making any difference in his income, we immediately had significantly more take-home pay. Our quality of life increased significantly. He wasn't commuting as much. So it wasn't just about the numbers. That was part of it, but the numbers were going to allow us to live our lives differently and to have less stress in it. So that's where that piece came from, was somebody asking me a challenging question, and then the universe reacted and provided exactly what we were looking for.
Amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And actually, what's really brilliant is we've got James has called in. Let's add him to the stream. Hello, James. He's called in from his car, coming back from Dubai.
Hello, Maria. Hello, Caitriona. So just let you know, I am not driving. I have a very skilled driver here, Alistair, who's driving me. So my hands are not on the wheel. I'm not doing anything dangerous. So lovely to be with you today. And what a great conversation. Financial wellness. I'm looking forward to hearing what Caitriona has to say today.
Super. So listen, James, you haven't come from Dubai because you're looking to move there for tax reasons, have you?
No. Although it is a great place if you're looking to kind of reduce your taxes. I know lots of experts, speakers, different people, different professions who have a business. Their professional services business is based either offshore or in the UAE or somewhere in maybe in Dubai or one of those kind of low taxation places around there. And it's a great place to be based. If you want that lifestyle, but you don't have to actually be based there. You can actually just start a business there as well. But yeah, it's interesting. This topic that Caitriona is kind of talking about is something really close to my heart because I'm the most risk averse person in the world when it comes to money, and I think I get it partly from being involved in the music industry for so many years and seeing so many musicians get themselves into a state because, like speakers, when you're earning, you get paid really well for what you do, and there's time when it's really going great guns, but that stuff can disappear overnight, and so you have to kind of build in things and safety nets and boring stuff to ensure that to kind of take you through sometimes those lean years and ensure you're doing taxes in the right way. So I'm looking forward to listening to this conversation as much as anything else.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll keep you here as long as we can until you get cut off. Okay. So we'll keep you included. So first of all, I think we ought to probably define what you mean by financial wellness, Caitriona, before we go any deeper. What is financial wellness?
Well, I think to answer that, I'd have to answer it by saying it's very individual. It's a bit like our experience in the speaking business. Each of us will have a different take on it. And that's really good to get clarity on that up front. And one of the things I do with clients when we start in the beginning is I ask them to get really clear as to what that means for them, because it can be very different things for each of us here and the people listening in. So the first step is really to get clear on that. For me personally, it's about having freedom of choice, always having the money to make the choices I want for myself and my loved ones, and never having to say no to something because I don't have the resources to do that. So home education has been something really valuable to me. Us living here, me being able to work at flexible hours. The money is part of it. And like James mentioned, you have the boring stuff, you have your savings and your emergency fund and all those things in place because that gives you the peace of mind. So there's some of the elements that are from me. But, for everybody listening in, I would urge you, rather than kind of looking over the fence and seeing what the Joneses are doing with it, it's back to you. What are the kind of things, asking yourself, that would give you that really amazing sense of financial wellness, and start to one by one put those in place. So it's not about looking outside for this, it's actually about looking inside and what are the things that you would like to have in place to give you that feeling, because for me that's the way it works.
And of course, everybody has their own individual relationship, don't they? Their own personal relationship with money and their own view of money. Do you think some of it is around your mindset and how you see money? Do you work on that
Massively.
too? Oh, it is
Massively.
massively. Mm.
Massively. I mean, to me, the numbers are a teeny factor in it. And that part of it is very easy to automate it and to outsource it. But you are the source of all of this, like you are with, you're speaking, we talked yesterday, opportunities are everywhere, or there are challenges everywhere, depending on your perspective. So your mindset for your money is no different. It has the strength to help you rise or take you down. So it's entirely, and that for me, that's a really empowering thing. And that's something that I like to work with people, is to get to see that, is that really when you look inside your own economy, we can see all the things happening with the energy bills, etc., and people are stressing out about the massive increases. There's nothing really largely most of us can do about that. But what we can do is look after our own economy and the things within our control that we can decide. So, taking a portion of your speaking income and deciding to put that aside for an emergency fund, or to invest it, or to put it into property, or whatever it is, those decisions are within your control. How you spend it, if you budget, things like that. So the external stuff is nothing we can do about. So mindset is massive, and seeing the pieces that you can actually enact change with. That's really key to this.
Fantastic. Do you mind if I go off piece with the questions? Because I've got so many
No,
questions that I would like to ask personally. I'm going to go off piece here. So here's one of my questions for you now. There have been people who in the last 2 years have seen a real decline in their income because of COVID, and because maybe they haven't been able to adapt to the virtual world, or, they've been affected and maybe they've not had the opportunity to. And also now we're seeing increases. Everything's increased. The oil prices are going crazy. Petrol prices are going crazy. Everything is increasing in price. When you're in that situation that your income has gone down, your expenses have gone up, where do you start apart from having a panic attack?
Well, you're speaking to one of those people who had a massive curveball. March 2020, when all this kicked off in terms of COVID, my husband is an airline pilot. So
Of
overnight,
course.
our income
Of course.
gone. We had no furlough in the Isle of Man because we have lots of tax advantages. So they didn't have the wherewithal to provide the furlough that you would have received in the UK and Ireland. So we were getting £200 a week for a family of 5. So overnight, our income was gone. Now, thankfully, I'd spent the previous 5 years putting all the foundations in place. So we had an emergency fund, and we had all those things. We had other things that we could draw on, so we didn't lose sleep. But I had this discussion actually as recently as last night. For the first 10, 14 days, it was about just putting one foot in front of the other. And Joe Wicks was a feature in that, in getting me out of bed, because when the whole world in our house started crashing down, we thought, what are we going to do? And 2 years ago, I was home educating full time. I wasn't working. My job was to home educate our 3 kids. So I had to scramble pretty quickly to see, okay, what's my skill set and what can I do to, to try and get us out of this hole, because we had no idea how long his income would be gone for. He started back then maybe 8 months later, but then he was made redundant, lost his job. And then you were in a world full of redundant pilots. Where do you get a job? Thankfully, he was lucky to get one. So for the last 2 years, it's like we've been in the wash cycle going over and over, but it came back every time. And then throw divorce into the middle of that too, just to mix it up a little bit. And so I've had a lot of the challenges firsthand in the last 24 months, but the overriding thing always is, what can I do? I'll take my time to have my pity party and wallow about it, and then once I get myself to the place of steadying the ship, okay, what can I do? And like that lovely Martin Luther King quote, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the next step. And that's what it was always about for me. It was, okay, I have no idea what's happening here, but I can see the next step, right? The first step is I need to just have a brainstorm. What can I do? So it's always trying to see, okay, what's happening is real. There's nothing we can do about many of the elements that we're being hit with at the moment. But what can you do something about? Bring it in-house. Look within your own house. What are the things? Maybe you have no idea of what's going out of your account at the moment. Maybe you need to pay a little bit more attention to that. It's very simple steps. None of this is rocket science. None of what I did is super clever. It was all about installing some really good, simple habits on my financial, my money matters, and then step by step starting to get it into better shape, and just having that faith, having that really magnetizing idea as what financial wellness looked like for me, and that was kind of pulling me through to keep putting one foot in front of the other and continue. And as you start to see the progress, that momentum gathers force and starts to accelerate. So it's just about what's the next step and the next step, because it can be very overwhelming and very disheartening to think, okay, look, what can I do? There's lots that you can do. And part of what I teach is a habit of responsibility, 100% responsibility. I don't depend on anybody else outside of me for any of that. The buck stops with me. I'm making the decisions. So I take that on board and make my decisions from there. So that's how I would navigate it. If there's anybody listening who really is struggling right now, is, feel the struggle. The struggle is real. It's tough right now financially, but see what you can do. There's always some things that you can do, and just take time to reflect on those.
Wow, powerful, powerful, powerful. I didn't know you'd been through a divorce as well. You've been through the lot, really. We've got lots of comments. I want to read some of the comments. So Alexander Smith says, when you surrender, the universe delivers, which is obviously referencing your move. Debbie Reichens, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry, Debbie. That makes perfect sense to me. Budgeting with speaking funds in the same way as working with client coaching earnings. Okay, that's great. Ian Rose says, I agree with the freedom of choice. I'm a targets driven person and keep aiming for the next 10K jump in the bank. I'm investing in myself and my office. Where would you suggest a good investment opportunity is? So I don't know if you can give that advice really here, or can you?
I can't give advice. I can share you what I do, and do your own research, as we said at the beginning of the call, and make sure that you're comfortable with doing your own due diligence. For UK-based people, the platform that I used is Hargreaves Lansdown. It's a very low-cost platform that is used by a lot of people. It has very good reviews. I find the customer service excellent, very simple to operate, and that's a platform I use. If you look into somebody like Warren Buffett, who's very well known for his prowess in terms of financial wellness, he would look at products like index trackers. So I keep it very simple. All of mine is automated. Once every 3 months, I check in to see how it's doing, but I keep my fingers out of it. When you start tinkering and fiddling, that's when things can go wrong. And trying to beat the market, that's, to me, that's not my game. That's not how I do it. I set and I automate it. So have a look at maybe Hargreaves Lansdown platform and see if there's something there that you that might fit for what you're looking for. And you always need to be looking at things holistically in terms of where your exposure is, whether if you've got interest in property and interest in equities, where your income's coming from, and making sure that you always have a good sense of diversification from what you actually currently have. So I can't say to one person without looking at the whole picture, but if you're looking at equity stuff, that's definitely a great platform to check out.
Brilliant. James, what did you do with your speaking funds? Because I know you have a place in Italy. Is that where they went to?
Well, no, I mean, I don't. I almost don't consider that as a. I know it is an asset, as a property, but it's not a real asset, because an asset, I think, has to be something that generates income, and it's not that. So you could almost put it on the liabilities tab rather than the assets tab. It's a holiday home. But what Caitriona's saying there, just I feel quite good, because you mentioned Hargreaves Lansdown. I also do stuff with Hargreaves Lansdown. I think it's a great platform. Index funds, because I know nothing about picking stocks, and I don't have the interest in doing it. So I just do very much like you do: index funds, asset allocation, making sure that there's enough diversification based upon my personal attitude to risk. So property, bonds, stocks and shares, gold, all the different things as well. But one of the things I wanted to ask Caitriona about was, I remember kind of doing that first, getting to those different stages of the first stage being having an emergency fund. Even just doing that, having 6 months to 12 months worth of money in the bank, that if anything happened, I knew that was there. Getting that first. And then I remember the next stage after that was getting to the stage of basically having enough money in investments that I didn't really have to work again, in order for it to pay for our living expenses as they are now. So no fancy stuff, but just mortgage is taken care of, everything's taken care of. I remember that was a really important point. And so I'm always kind of just like, well, what are those next stages, those next big milestones that we should be thinking of as speakers? So Caitriona, can you maybe speak to that? Like, what are the things, like if we think step by step, what are the key milestones we should be looking at? Because I hear like financial freedom, financial independence, all these things get moved about, and I'm never quite sure what the target should really be, what the goal should be.
Well, again, I think it's individual. So I really, I think we're learning from very similar mentors with what you're describing. So the first level is really to get to that stage where you have the basics and your essentials covered. That's an amazing feeling to get to, and to have, other ways of generating income to cover all those. That's just a fantastic stage to get to. And the next level for me is multiplying that, so I don't just have that coming from one source, because as we learned last 2020, that source can be wiped out very quickly. And and as well, in the assets, I have maybe 5 or 6 different streams that can cover all of those. So when things are going great, then that essential is multiplied times 5. When some of those maybe drop off or fall down, then I'm going to take a little bit of a hit. So to me, diversification especially has been a massive learning out of everything for the last 2 years, for so many reasons. And then it's about next level. So if you know that you've got that first level covered and that feels great, well, what's your next level? And you can put as many levels in as you like. To me, it's like, it's that basic needs are met. And then it's like, okay, well, what, and you get your life to where the basics maybe are slightly, an elevated level. And then you want to elevate it again. So, we've recently just reshuffled our budgets. We've got 2 boys, 1 girl, and they're getting older. So our eating budgets are gone up. So things are, and then we decided, well, we'd like to have a bigger eating out budget. We want to put it in more fun money. We want to allocate a bit more money to our travel. So we're upgrading our lives, and that base amount is increasing. So to me, it's about that. It's like, right, okay, well, this is where I am now. what else would I like to include? So I'm up leveling my own baseline each time, and I think that's something that you can do at any stage. You know, when you get to that position of having the basics covered, you have then the freedom to add those things in. And we live, you know, as you know, in Capital Town, so we're very near the private jet centre. So one of the things on the list for me, I see the private jets taking off all the time. So I got myself a little quote as to what it would cost to do a trip that I wanted to do. And it's like putting that in the back of your head, or what are the things that you're on your bucket list that you want to weave in. So it's just, again, it's always back to personal reflection and saying, okay, well, here's what I have. I'd like to add in A, B, or C. How could I do that? What would it cost me? And when you actually price that, or say, you know, you're looking to have a particular car, you have a drive in that car, you know, you put it out there, and then, you know, you see, okay, well, how could I weave this in? This is something, you know, I work hard, I like to have nice things, I reward myself with in whatever way, and do that. So it's really just bringing it back to you as to where you are and where that next step would be for you.
Very good, very good. We've got some more
Fantastic,
comments.
great.
So, yeah, Gina has asked if we could share a link, and I think she's referring to the Hargreaves Lansdowne. We will do that separately at the end. Anthony's saying multiple streams of income, always a wise move. Excellent. And Ian has thanked you for responding to his question, so that's lovely. So let me go back to the original questions. Why would you say financial wellness is essential specifically for speakers? I think maybe we might have touched on that already, actually, but if you could sum it up for us, that would be really great.
I think because it can be volatile, and especially I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, and our conversations yesterday, and prospecting, in that, you know, if you even within speaking, you should have diversification, in my opinion. So if you're currently focusing maybe on the tech industry, that can be very volatile, and you can leave yourself very exposed. So maybe it's about currently thinking as to where are the bulk of your clients coming from, and maybe it might be interesting for you to spread the net a little bit wider, rather than going deeper with that one particular industry or one particular group of clients. Maybe to see if you can add one or two more in. So I would look to diversify within what you're currently doing. I think that would be a good way to go, because if a particular industry is going to be hit and you have interests in others, then you have already got some context that you can go deeper there if one is affected. Because, like, you know, I think Jane mentioned in the beginning, it can be volatile, and, you know, to a lot of people, it's seen as a luxury to have these kind of events. So they can be the first thing that's cut. So then outside speaking, to look at other things that you could potentially incorporate. For me, one of those things was property. When we were hit with COVID, it was adding assets in, adding things that are more rock solid than some of the things you currently have, and seeing what else. Another thing that we've done, which is why I'm coming to you from my throne in my bedroom today, is we have actually taken part of our house, a garage and a storeroom, and converted it into a self-contained apartment. So looking at what you have around you and what you can use to generate income, so that if something like that happened again, one of our biggest concerns was paying our mortgage. So now we have the opportunity to have created an asset that can generate income if we need it. So looking around you and seeing what else you can add in, but also focusing as well on your speaking and how you can diversify, because I think diversification has been a key learning for all of us over the last 2 years.
And actually also diversification of just not delivering just a speech, but actually delivering different services and delivering your expertise in different ways. I think we've all learned that. We've all learned that we can share our expertise on a live stream, which, I mean, we weren't doing that before COVID. So at least I don't think we were, James, were we? When did we start? Did we start in 2020? Actually, no, I don't remember.
No, actually, yes. But actually, it's interesting because, you know, mentioned this idea of diversification, and diversifying in terms of the industries that, say, you speak to is another level of diversification. I remember reading a great book, Ray Dalio's Principles, which is all about investment principles. And I remember sitting and trying to apply it to the work we do as speakers. And the way I think about speaking, the income that is like stocks and shares. It can be quite volatile. But creating things like membership programs, continuity programs, that's more like bonds. It creates it's slightly more boring in some ways, but it creates a longer thing. Gold, I think, is like your writing. It's very boring. But if you can write books and you're consistently writing books, it adds a small amount, but it's pretty consistent in terms of, it can be consistent with royalties. And I think of things like high-end executive coaching or consulting as really the cryptocurrency of the speaking industry, because when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's really bad. So I kind of think about almost like creating an all-weather speaking industry, like a diversified speaking industry. And you can, if you have those, if you are a speaker and you also have coaching and consulting and online courses and books, that's an amazing way to create a diversification in your business.
Yeah,
Love that. I think that's brilliant. I really love that. That's a really good, very good examples. So Bodil has mentioned, I have started to expand my business through diversification. It's the only thing to do. Fantastic. Wonderful. Caitriona, can you share any tips with us? Are you able to?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just, there's so many ways to cut it. I think I did a 30-day course recently, and it was kind of pulled out 5 kind of key things around having a good relationship with your money. And one of them was, the first thing was around having a very healthy relationship with your money. So lots of us can dig our head, or bury our heads in the sand, and we don't want to know. And we know there's enough money there, and it's coming and it's going, but we really don't know the finer detail of it. Having a really good relationship with your money means that you know exactly what's coming in, not to the penny, but more or less. You know what's coming in, you know what you're spending on the big categories. And a lot of people can see that like penny pinching or a little bit Scroogey. And to me, it's nothing like that. It's about showing respect to my money. So if I have no idea, I often use the analogy of a friendship with my money. So if I have a friend who I don't return the calls, I don't show up when I'm supposed to show up, and I pay very little attention to them, then that friend is likely not going to hang around very long. And money is exactly the same. Maybe stepping into the woo-woo space here, but if you show up for your money, you respect it, you track it, you're really grateful for it, because gratitude is a massive part of it, then it does respond in kind. And like one of the earlier commenters mentioned, the universe does provide. So when you show up like that and you create a healthy relationship with money by healthy habits that you've installed, then it does respond in kind. So I think that's one really, really important thing to share on it. And I mentioned about the power of gratitude. That it really is key to it. Like when I started with this in 2015, it was really a case of financial desperation, and by incorporating that simple thing that is free for us all to access, I would go to bed at night and I used to journal it, but then it became kind of onerous with 3 kids, sleep deprived. I just used to run through it mentally in my head. What are all the things that I'm really grateful for? And I would genuinely feel with every cell in my body that I was so grateful for the bed I had to sleep in, the warm house that I had to live in, money in my bank account to pay my mortgage and feed my children, and little things like that. So if the one takeaway that people have from today is to have a better relationship with money, then I think that would be a really, really good takeaway. And that can be simply done by just tracking, whether you use an app or whether you use Excel, it doesn't really matter. Just as long as you show up for your money and you know where it's coming and going from, and then having that feeling of gratitude towards it, whether it's a small amount or a large amount. And this is a big misconception. People think, oh, when I get to this salary level or when I get this bonus, it'll all be fine. It won't change. I've been that soldier that's had all the salary increases and the bonuses. My habits never changed, and my spending didn't change. It's not until your habits change, because my investment journey started with €20. Now you think, what on earth difference is €20 going to make? But it was the habit, and that habit moved very quickly from €20 to 50% of our income, because the habit was installed. So that's what it's about. It's not, and people say to me regularly, but I can't afford this. And come on, most of us, the vast majority of us, especially in this space, can afford €20, £25 a month is the minimum Hargreaves Lansdowne. So, I think most of us can afford it, but we think we put it off until we get that big amount. And the habits need to start now. They're not something that will come when you have more money.
I was going to pick up on that, Caitriona. My wife is very, very good. Every 3 months or so, she will sit me down and she will go through all of our bank statements, and especially in the business, and because I'm terrible one for signing up for subscriptions and things. And then they kind of get away from you and suddenly like, what? Why am I subscribed to this thing? So she is brilliant at kind of sitting down every month or every quarter and saying, do we still need this? Is this still needed? And it's amazing how much kind of money you can just find out. It's like maybe $10 here, $20 here, and you add all those things together. And someone shared a number with me the other day. They said, if you can save $300 a month for 8 years or 6 years at 10% increase because of compounding, you'll have $1.6 million by the end of that 8 years. And it didn't work. I like, really? That can work. But it's compounding. It's like 10% interest $300 a month. 8 years, I think, was the date. I did the calculations, and because of compounding, it's true.
Where's the 10%? But where's your 10% interest? I'd like an account with 10% interest.
Well, that's the trick. That's the trick. You got to do 10. You got to do 10%. So you got to figure out. And part of that is if you can have low tax, as well, being a place with low tax. That's where that nips it. Low charges. We mentioned the Hargreaves Land Index. So sometimes it's not about the top end. It's actually how can you save on all of those things that can nip away at the money. And so on that, I think I'm probably going to lose signal a little bit as well.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Because Caitriona, thank you from my side. You're sharing so many brilliant things, and I'm going to go back now. I'm going to sit down with my wife, and we're going to probably sit and go through those statements again after this.
Well, James, check out Money Chimp Calculator. That's an amazing tool that you can play around with those figures on, and it blows my mind because Albert Einstein calls it the eighth wonder of the world with compound interest, and it is. Every time I see it work, it just blows my mind. It's amazing.
Wow, fantastic. I wish I'd known this like 20 years ago. Where were you 20 years ago? Okay, James, I'm going to remove you then in case we lose you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He's amazing even when he's jet lagged, isn't he? I mean, how incredible is that? And he looks fresh and young and wonderful. Caitriona, this has been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Really, really valuable. Is there anything else you would like to leave our audience to think about before I share how they can contact you?
I think probably the one important thing right now with what's going on outside is responsibility. And it's really easy to get caught up in the fear and all the scary numbers that are being thrown around. But to bring it back to yourself and to see, okay, we know this is focus on your own economy and there's nothing we can do about the stuff that's outside largely. So what, if you're getting stressed out about this stuff, what's the one thing, if you just pick one thing from today, maybe that you've heard that you think, okay, I should find something else out about that, or I really resonate with that, I need to do that. Just pick that one thing, because this is definitely has a snowball effect. When you start with one thing and you see the progress that you're making, it does snowball very quickly, and you get encouraged to take the next step and the next step. So take responsibility is my number one takeaway from today. Don't leave it to the government to provide, to whoever else to sort out, your employer, the next speaking gig, whatever. Take responsibility yourself and see what you can do to get yourself to a better level of financial wellness.
We're going to do that. I'm going to do exactly what James said. I'm going to go through my bank statements and have a look. I am one of those people that subscribes to lots of things or creates all these direct debits and standing orders and things. So I'm going to look at that. Thank you, Caitriona. It's been wonderful. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Caitriona, she is on LinkedIn, Caitriona Ellis Financial Wellness. You have a Facebook group, I believe. Yes, 90 Days to Financial Wellness. 90 days isn't a long time. That's pretty fast. That's amazing. And is that group free to join?
It is. I changed the name recently when I changed the company to Financial Wellness Academy, so you can connect with me there on Facebook.
Financial Wellness Academy. Okay. And you also have an offer, Financial Wellness Week, a free event run twice a year. Tell me a little bit about that, please. Yeah,
sure. So part of this for me is about diversification is key, but also part of it is about specifically as a woman and finding myself, maybe 6 months ago in the position that I was looking at divorce and realizing, having given up my time to educate kids, my earning power was gone, and that was a big struggle. So I never wanted other women or anybody to find themselves in that position. So to give back, I do twice a year run this event, and it's all based around live workshops, teaching some of the core principles, and about giving people a chance to ask me directly questions if I can help them, whatever. So I run that twice a year. I've just run it in January, and I'll be running it again in September. It's free to anybody to join, and I offer my program at the end of it, but the week is 100% based on, there's no selling. It's about giving value to make sure that nobody ever has to feel in the position that they don't have the money to do things for themselves or their loved ones. And that's something that's really, really important to me.
I hope it's a date I can attend, because I'm getting married in September. So I've got my fingers crossed. I will check it out with you. Brilliant. Caitriona, thank you so much. It's been absolutely invaluable. We've had lots of comments and lots of praise. People for saying thank you so much for everything that you've done. All that remains to say is goodbye to everybody. Thank you for all for attending. And we will see you next week. And I'm going to play you out with the music, and I expect you to dance this time on the way out.